What up, guys? It's been a while since I made a video. It's currently March 2nd, 2022. So put the door on today, and I have here some JDM ITR power folding mirrors. So as you can see right there, I got the pigtails. I have a relay right there, and over there I have a switch. So I am going to be showing you guys how to wire and install these power folding mirrors. So these mirrors, they bolt up originally in the factory position as the stock ones. The only thing that changes is the wiring. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do the wiring, how to run it through the factory boot, wire the relay, and also do the passenger side. So all the posts that I've seen on the forums, Google, images, whatever, they all just have a bunch of lines, as you see right here. So they just have like the switches with the relay and just a bunch of lines everywhere. It's kind of hard and confusing for somebody to read it and follow along, especially if you don't do wiring that frequently. So I broke it down a different way. So here's the factory plug, and as you can see, the difference on this one to this one is, oh, you know what? These are actually the same color. Oh wow. Okay, so this just made my job much easier. Okay, so these plugs are exactly the same. The only difference is the pin 1. Yeah, the only difference is pin 1, really. So at the end of the day, I might just be running 1 wire or 2 wires through that grommet, because I could just use this factory plug, and then I could pull the wires out through the kick panel. So all we have to do now is just add this plug, and it should work. All right, so as you can see right here, the pin wire colors and pin locations are exactly the same from the US and the JDM plug. The only difference is this wire right here, which is the blue and yellow, and that goes into pin 1. This is still pin 1 because all I did was flip it. So if you're confused, this is 1, this is 10, but I could flip it over for you too. So pin 1 is missing out of this one. Now, because this one was missing a wire, I'm assuming that that plug is the same case. So all we're probably gonna have to do there also is just add a plug, or add a wire to the factory plug, and then we could just run it out here. So maybe at the end of the day, we'll probably run 2 or 3 wires to the door jamb. Okay, so I was going to remove these pins and then just repin this one over there, but I can't find my pin, or I can't find my depinner anywhere. So I'm just gonna solder them over there. It's not a big deal. All right, so we got a brand new razor blade. Cut that off. Now, what we're gonna do is measure around the same length to where this was. See how I'm doing that? Just gonna line it up. Now, some people will tell you to stagger cut these. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's gonna be 9. So I'll probably stagger cut 4, and then I'll leave these same height. So get yourself some good cutters, and then just snip them. There you go. Now we stagger cut 4, and then the additional one that we have here will be staggered also. So now all we have to do here is do the same thing. So we'll stagger these. See how I did that? So I cut these the exact same length. That way these wires are already staggered for me, and all I have to do is just solder them. Okay, so these are already stripped. You really don't need that much material to make your connection because this is only like 16 gauge. Get your good strippers, strip these back. All right, so now what we could do is start connecting these. Now you could either solder these and shrink wrap them, or solder them and electrical tape them. If this is your project car and you take pride in it, I would just solder and heat shrink. But if this is your bucket, which I don't know why you would be buying $600 mirrors for a bucket, but if it's your bucket, you could just solder them and electrical tape them. But I mean, you're already here, you already got the door panel off, so you might as well just spend the other $4 and get some heat shrink, do the job right. But it's just me. Now, before you do any soldering, make sure you have the correct heat shrink, and make sure you slide it on before you solder, because once you solder, you can't have any heat shrink on that solder. You're gonna have to cut it off and start over again. So make sure you have the right heat shrink. So here's your typical heat shrink tube. Now what I do is I cut them in half. That way I could extend the use I get out of them. So here's where your flush cutters come in handy also. I just fold these in half because you really don't need that much heat shrink. All you're doing is covering the connection. All right, so this is how your wire connection should look once you're all done with it. Just like that. Don't just put your wires together like this and then twist them, because then you have the extra wire hanging out, and when you fold it over to make it flush, you have a big bulge. So meet your two wires together. Meet both of your wires together like this. Twist them, pull them apart a little bit. Make sure you're not on the rubber insulation. Make sure you're just on the copper, and then go ahead and give it a solder. Now when you're soldering, make sure your tip gets really hot. Test it out. Then you heat from the bottom, feed your solder on the top. Now you don't need too much solder because it is pretty thin wire. When you finish, it should look something like that. Okay. So one wire down. We got 8 more to go. But first, before we finish with that wire, we're gonna slide our insulation over, our heat shrink, and then we just heat it up a little bit, shrink it, and then we move on to the next. So once you line it up in the center, just give it some heat, and you should be good. So I'm gonna do that to the rest of these, and then when I get down to pin 1, I'm just gonna extend the wire. So I'm gonna put you guys on a time lapse. All right, so here we go. So got them all done. So for the blue and yellow, my bad. So for the blue and yellow, I'm gonna be using wire color blue and yellow. Let's go right here to our wires, and we got this one right here. All right, so here we have the additional wire, which is blue and yellow, and our wire here is blue and yellow, so it'll match perfectly just fine. Tie that on, solder it. slide our heat shrink over it. So there you go. That is how you make connections. That's how you solder. That is how we are going to install these mirrors. All right. So now here is our wire that we have to extend. This is our additional wire, blue and yellow. Now what I'm going to do is run this along the whole factory harness. That way I can try to get an idea of how much wire I need. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just tape this up right here, just band strap it, same way Honda did here. So I'll run it here, cut over to this way, and then I'll check this one, and if this is the same, which it kind of looks like it is, then I'll just add another wire from here, and then we'll go into the door to the kick panel. All right, so this is the factory plug, and it does fit into the same, it's the same connector, basically, right? So here we have a yellow red, and we have a yellow black. Here's a JDM plug, yellow red, yellow black, but we have two additional wires here. So we have a green, yellow, and we have a blue, red. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this one, same way I did over here. I'm gonna solder these wires here, and then I'm going to extend these two wires, and then we will route those two wires with this additional blue and yellow wire from this plug. And then either I could connect them here, I have to look at the schematic again, or we have to run all three wires in here. So let me finish this, and I'll show you how it looks when it's done. Okay, so I ran the wires from the plug right here. So here's a plug, and all I did was just strap it here to give me a good length. Then I ran it this way up here. I stopped right here. I ran the two extra wires from the new plug down here. I met them both together here, and then I ran the both wires here. You can see right here, it's its own harness. And then I strapped it here, and then I ran it behind this plug. That way it's still tucked in. I don't have to zip tie it. I could throw a strap right here of just Tessa tape, just a band strap, just to hold it down. But basically what I'm gonna do here, this is what I wanted to show you, is here is the plug that goes to the door, right? So what I did was I just estimated how much length it's going to be to route it from here to here. So what I'm going to do is from here to basically here, because by the time I'm done zip tying it and I have it right around there, that's about how much length of wire I'm going to need. So from here to here, I'm going to just wrap it in Tessa tape, and then I will zip tie it along the door harness right here, and I could feed it through the side connector, and then we'll figure out a way to make it run through the door. So let me finish this, and then I'll show you guys when I'm done. So here we go. So I ran just Tessa tape. You can see right here, this has plastic anyways, so the chances of it arcing or whatever are very slim, but either way, just to make sure that it's all secured, I just ran some on there. So all I'm gonna do now is just zip tie it to this harness, and then once I get here, I'll show you guys. Okay, so this is what I came up with so far. So I ran the harness right along here, zip tied it. Now when I got here, what I did was ran the harness along this plug. So I ran the harness around this plug. I'm gonna zip tie it here, and I cut out a notch right here. I just used my flush cutters and I snipped it, and then I snipped it diagonally, and then I got a razor blade and I just cleaned up the edge. That way it's nice and flat. So I put some heat shrink around these wires. That way it's protected. And what I'm gonna try and do is fish it through the door that way, and then I'll figure out how I can notch it in on the door side to get the connector to work. But this looks like it might work, to be honest. In the video I showed you guys how to solder the wires. This is the method I'm going to be doing for the whole install. Now I did clean up the wire harness right here. I just put some Tessa tape right here to secure it, and then I just put some band straps along the factory harness, same way Honda did. So what I did here was I extended these wires. I'll show that in the next video. This video is going to be split in two, guys, just because it is going to be a long video, and I don't want to leave out any important details, and you guys could see step by step how to do it. Just to simplify it, you only need 3 wires coming in from the driver's side through the firewall, and then from the passenger side we're only going to have 2 wires. But I have an idea, and I think I'm going to do some quick disconnects on the doors, so that'll be in part 2, because if I just leave it the way it is right now and I decide to run it hardwire, basically, whenever you go to take off the doors, those 2 wires are still connected, so you would have to either strip them back and reconnect them, or butt connect them, or whatever. So I'm just gonna make some quick disconnects with my tools right there. So I'll show you guys that in part 2. I hope this video helps, and I hope somebody will find it useful instead of having to dig through forums like I did for a few hours. So stick around for part 2, guys.